Back to human resources for the people. It's a human capital revolution. Today we're going to be talking about across the bond. So I enjoy comparative human resources. I think it's really interesting. And we're going to talk about how human resources is changing in the United Kingdom. This article comes to us from Adelshaw and Goddard, and it talks about what's ahead for employment law in 2023. Now, the most interesting thing that's ahead for employment law is the change in industrial relations. And what did Chronicle? So the United Kingdom went through some pretty serious strikes in 2022, late 2022 and 2023, and that really crippled a lot of the country. And as a result, they're releasing a bill that's what I would call a minimum manning bill or minimum service level bill, which just guarantees that you have to allow a certain or businesses will be required to have a certain amount of employees to run critical services. And it does fly in the face of unions. I'm sort of surprised that it's put in place, but because they were, sort of brought to their knees, I think that that's the main driver here. I think that's what's causing this issue. But I think it's really interesting to see a fairly progressive country embrace something so, clearly anti-union.
In order to support this, the United Kingdom is also considering a judicial review or going through judicial review for a regulation that allows agency workers to fill in for striking workers. So to be clear here, this is what Americans at least would call scabs, and it would allow scabs to replace critical infrastructure using agency employees, which I think is extremely interesting. I don't know that that would be legal in the United. Well, it would be illegal in the United States, but I think it's odd that again that a fairly progressive country is going through this. The next one up is there's quite a few that are going through. Some I honestly need a little bit more context on to compare with human resources in the United States, labor laws in the United States. It says that there's a new statutory right of at least 1 week of unpaid leave for unpaid caregivers per year. That family and medical leave covers that, right? You get 12 weeks under family and medical leave, and then who knows after that. And then I think what's really interesting and kind of highlights the culture is a day one right to request flexible working and a new requirement for employers to consult employees when they can't accommodate. And I think that's pretty interesting. I do think that the contract situation in Britain can be troublesome. A day one right to request flexible working. You in the United States, you can request it all you want. So I don't understand why the need for requests, but I do think that in England they do have some responsibility of attempting to sort of accommodate that request, and there isn't really a need for that. For the most part, the ADA doesn't cover COVID or fear of COVID. Next, it gives pregnant women greater protection from redundancy for expectant mothers. No, note here the difference in language. Redundancy here is the American English term for layoff, and so it's effectively saying that pregnant employees have protection from layoff. They're already protected in the United States as long as as much as possible. Now, obviously, employers can be very sneaky about why you're being laid off, but there is already protections in place for this. In addition, it does 12 leaves, 12 I suppose 12 extra weeks of paid leave for neonatal care after birth to care for a sick child that is at least somewhat covered under uh, pregnancy or FMLA, but it is probably an extension of the coverage compared to what Americans get. And the next one is really interesting. I'll need to dig into it deeper. It says a requirement that employers pass all tips to staff in full without deductions. Now this can't happen that I'm aware of in the United States. I think the intention here is like, for example, if your drawer is short, you don't have to pay it back from the tips. Uh, I think that's probably what it's referring to. But employers have to give all their tips to the tipped employees in the United States, so that's pretty interesting. Um, Folks from the United Kingdom, please leave a comment down below what you think I got right, what you think I got wrong. I'm always interested in hearing more, especially from across the world. And as always, like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye, guys.